On the evening of May 4th, 2018, around 10 p.m., Sarah Taylor made a horrifying discovery as she walked into her bedroom. She found her husband, Alex Taylor, lying lifeless on the bed, his body cold and stiff. Alex had a belt tied around his neck, and his eyes were frozen in a permanent stare. Sarah's heart sank, and her hand flew to her mouth as she suppressed a scream. She reached for her phone to call 911, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. The 911 operator answered quickly, and Sarah's voice was barely audible as she reported the incident. "My husband, he's not breathing. I think he's dead," she stammered, her voice filled with shock and terror. After Sarah discovered the body of her husband, she called 911, and the operator stayed on the line, asking questions to keep Sarah calm and gather information, while dispatching emergency services to their home. Within minutes, paramedics arrived at the Taylor residence. The sound of sirens filled the usually quiet suburban neighborhood of Oakwood Drive. Paramedics rushed inside, their faces serious and focused. Inside the bedroom, the paramedics confirmed the worst. Alex was dead. One of the paramedics gently guided Sarah out of the room, while the other began to secure the scene, careful not to touch or disturb anything. The sound of Sarah's anguished sobs filled the air as the reality of the situation sank in. The paramedics' somber expressions and hushed tones only added to the gravity of the moment. Alex Taylor, 39, was a self-made millionaire and CEO of Taylor Technologies, Inc. He grew up in Bedminster, New Jersey, and attended Bedminster Township Public Schools. Alex was a high-achieving student and attended Stanford University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in computer science. After college, he co-founded his first company and later established Taylor Technologies, Inc., which became a global leader in software solutions. Alex's rise to prominence began when his company, Taylor Technologies, Inc., developed a revolutionary artificial intelligence platform that transformed the tech industry. The platform's innovative capabilities and vast potential caught the attention of investors, media, and the public, catapulting Alex to the forefront of the tech world. As his company's profile grew, so did Alex's. He became a sought-after speaker, gracing the stages of top tech conferences and events. His charismatic presence, visionary insights, and inspiring entrepreneurial journey made him a darling of the media, with features in prominent publications and interviews on leading news channels. It was during this time that Alex met his wife, Sarah. She was a successful event planner, responsible for organizing a high-profile tech conference where Alex was the keynote speaker. Their initial encounter was brief, but the connection was evident. They reconnected at a charity gala a few weeks later, and their relationship blossomed. Sarah was drawn to Alex's passion, intelligence, and kindness, while Alex admired her elegance, poise, and dedication to her craft. Together, they formed a formidable partnership, supporting each other's endeavors and sharing a deep love for philanthropy and community engagement. Their whirlwind romance culminated in a fairy tale wedding with the tech and social elite in attendance. The couple's love story was featured in top lifestyle magazines, cementing their status as one of the most influential and admired power couples in the industry. Alex was planning a grand 40th birthday celebration with a roaring 40s theme, complete with a luxurious venue, live jazz music, and A-list guests. His wife, Sarah, was organizing the party, which was to take place on a yacht with breathtaking views of the Manhattan skyline. However, Alex's life was tragically cut short before he could celebrate this milestone birthday, leaving behind a grieving community and a party that would never be. The police arrived promptly, led by Detective Emily Rodriguez and her partner, Detective Michael Chen. Detective Rodriguez was known for her meticulous attention to detail, while Detective Chen had a reputation for his intuitive grasp of human behavior. They began their investigation immediately. Detective Rodriguez swiftly evaluated the crime scene, her expression growing grim as she examined the disordered bedroom. 2 coffee mugs, one with a hint of lipstick, lay on the floor, alongside an empty packet of cookies and a discarded wrapper from a local bakery. The satin nightgown was draped over a lamp on the nightstand. The bed covers were tossed aside, and the bed sheets were untucked. Alex's naked body was on the bed, a belt tied around his neck, his face bearing the marks of a violent struggle. The scene was both heartbreaking and disturbing. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting Alex knew his attacker. It seemed an intimate encounter had turned violent. The presence of the second coffee mug and the lipstick suggested that Alex was not alone in the hours leading up to his death. The autopsy would reveal more answers. The detectives were thorough, making sure not to miss any detail that might explain what had happened. Detective Rodriguez immediately began collecting evidence, carefully taking fingerprints from various surfaces in the room, hoping to find a match in the police database. Detective Chen, meanwhile, focused on taking detailed photographs of the scene, ensuring that every piece of evidence was documented. The detectives found the belt used as a murder weapon and carefully bagged it for further analysis. They also collected DNA samples from under Alex's fingernails, indicating he might have scratched his attacker in an attempt to defend himself. Outside, the forensic team arrived and began their work, carefully processing the scene with a sense of urgency and precision. They used a special light to look for any bodily fluids that might provide additional clues, and they also collected hair samples and fibers from the bed and surrounding area. Every piece of evidence was crucial, and they knew that piecing together the events leading up to Alex's tragic death would require meticulous attention to detail. As the forensic team worked, a few curious neighbors peeked out from behind their curtains, whispering to each other in hushed tones. But most people kept their distance, fearful of what might have happened and not wanting to risk endangering themselves. The street was eerily quiet, with only the occasional passing car breaking the silence. The sense of unease was palpable, and the community was left to grapple with the shock and horror of the event. As the afternoon progressed, Detectives Rodriguez and Chen continued their investigation, undeterred by the complexity of the case. They remained focused on uncovering the truth and finding out who was responsible for this brutal crime. They knew that solving Alex's murder required a thorough and methodical approach, leaving no stone unturned. They worked tirelessly, driven by the need to bring justice for Alex and his grieving family. On the morning of May 5th, the first person summoned to the police station for questioning in Alex's murder was his wife, Sarah Taylor. Detectives Rodriguez and Chen had already spoken to her briefly at the scene, but now they needed to ask more in-depth questions. They ushered her into the interview room, where they began their questioning, searching for any inconsistencies in her alibi or potential motives for the crime. Detectives Rodriguez and Chen conducted the interrogation, their eyes fixed on Sarah Taylor as they asked her to account for her whereabouts on the night of Alex's murder. Sarah claimed she was working late on an event at a venue, finalizing details for an upcoming wedding, and provided emails and texts to support her alibi. At first, her story seemed solid, but as the questioning continued, the detectives noticed inconsistencies in her demeanor. Sarah's eagerness to establish her alibi seemed excessive, and her repeated insistence on her innocence, without prompting, raised suspicions. The detectives observed that Sarah's hands fidgeted as she spoke, and she frequently glanced around the room, avoiding eye contact. Her voice trembled slightly as she answered their questions, and she seemed overly concerned with convincing them of her innocence. Detectives Rodriguez and Chen exchanged a knowing glance, sensing that Sarah might be hiding something. They decided to investigate further, looking into Sarah's activities in more detail to verify her alibi and uncover any potential discrepancies. They also made a note to contact the venue and confirm Sarah's story to see if anyone could corroborate her presence there on the day of the murder. The detectives began their investigation by reviewing security footage from the venue in Nashville, Tennessee, where Sarah claimed she was working late on the night of her husband Alex's murder, planning a wedding event. As they dug deeper, they reviewed footage from a nearby hotel, which showed Sarah checking in on the afternoon of May 3, 2018. About an hour later, a person wearing a fedora hat and sunglasses was seen entering her room. This individual stayed with Sarah until late in the evening, around 3 p.m. The person in the fedora left the room, followed by Sarah a few minutes later. They were then observed kissing in the parking lot before driving off in separate cars in opposite directions. This new information raised suspicions, and the detectives wondered who this mysterious person was and what their connection was to Sarah and the murder investigation. They decided to investigate further, looking into Sarah's activities in more detail and trying to identify the person in the fedora. The detectives continued to investigate, wanting to know more about the mysterious person in the fedora. As they reviewed earlier footage, they discovered that the person in the fedora was a young man with blonde hair. The questions remained: who was he? What was his relationship with Sarah? And could he be connected to Alex's murder? Furthermore, the detectives checked Sarah's alibi and found that she had claimed to be working late at the venue in Nashville on the night of the murder, planning a wedding event. However, they discovered that Sarah had canceled her scheduled meetings for March 3rd and 4th, which contradicted her initial statement, making it clear that Sarah had lied about her activities during that time. The detectives circled the man, a 23-year-old fitness model and entrepreneur, known for his chiseled physique and charming smile, as a second suspect. His social media handle, the Muscle Maverick, had garnered a large following, particularly among older women who admired his rugged good looks and physique. Rumors swirled that he offered more than just fitness coaching to his clients, catering to their intimate desires and earning him a reputation as a sought-after gigolo. His services were allegedly in high demand, with whispers of a black book containing the names of his wealthy and influential clients. It was said that he had a talent for making women feel desired and appreciated, and that his charm and good looks made him a magnet for those seeking companionship and excitement. The detectives wondered if his involvement with Sarah Taylor, Alex's wife, went beyond a mere coincidence, and if his questionable profession might be linked to the murder investigation. They also pondered whether his relationship with Sarah was a mere fling or something more sinister, and if he might have had a motive to silence Alex permanently. As they dug deeper, they discovered that the muscle maverick had a history of being in the right place at the right time, always seeming to appear in the lives of women who were vulnerable and seeking attention. His true intentions remained unclear, but one thing was certain. He was now a person of interest in the murder investigation. In the afternoon of the 6th of May, Detectives Rodriguez and Chen decided to bring Maverick in for questioning, curious about his involvement with Sarah Taylor and potential connection to Alex's murder. They led him to the interview room, where he took a seat, his confident demeanor unwavering. The detectives began their questioning, but to their surprise, Maverick answered each query openly and honestly, without hesitation or evasion. He confirmed his relationship with Sarah, revealing they had met at a fitness event and began a romantic affair. Maverick admitted he knew about Alex, but claimed their relationship was consensual and that Sarah had confided in him about her unhappy marriage. He denied any involvement in Alex's murder, stating he was at a photo shoot at the time of the crime after he left Sarah. The detectives pressed for more information, but Maverick's responses remained candid and unguarded, leaving them wondering if he was telling the truth or skillfully manipulating them. Despite Maverick's candid responses, Detectives Rodriguez and Chen still harbored doubts about his statements. They decided to verify his alibi, tracking down the photographer who had worked with him on the day of Alex's murder. The photographer confirmed Maverick's presence at the photo shoot, and the timeline matched his account. However, when the detectives reviewed the photos from the shoot, they noticed something peculiar. Maverick's behavior during the shoot seemed overly rehearsed, and the photographer mentioned that Maverick had received a mysterious phone call during the shoot, which he had stepped away to answer. This new information raised suspicions about Maverick's potential involvement in Alex's murder, and the detectives began to re-examine his statements, searching for any other potential cracks in his story. Detectives Rodriguez and Chen decided to dig deeper into Maverick's and Sarah's communication records, suspecting that their exchange might reveal crucial information about Alex's murder. They obtained warrants to track their call history and messages, hoping to uncover any suspicious interactions. After analyzing the records, they found a flurry of texts and calls between Maverick and Sarah in the days leading up to Alex's murder. The messages were cryptic, but they hinted at a secret meeting and discussed taking care of the problem. One text from Maverick to Sarah read, "I'll handle it. You'll be free soon." The detectives suspected that the problem might refer to Alex, and that Maverick and Sarah could have been planning his murder. Furthermore, they discovered a series of deleted messages on Sarah's phone, which had been recovered using specialized software. These messages revealed a more intimate relationship between Sarah and Maverick, with explicit content and declarations of love. As the detectives continued to analyze Maverick's phone records, they stumbled upon a shocking discovery. Maverick had been sending Sarah's naked pictures to another contact, someone he had been in frequent communication with. The contact's number was registered to a man named Victor, and his messages to Maverick were laced with explicit requests and comments about Sarah's photos. The detectives' eyes widened as they realized the scope of Maverick's deceit. He had not only been manipulating Sarah, but also exploiting her for his own gain, sharing intimate photos with a third party. This new evidence suggested a twisted game of cat and mouse, with Maverick at the center, pulling the strings. Victor's messages also hinted at a deeper conspiracy, mentioning something about the plan and getting paid. The detectives suspected that Victor might be more than just a recipient of illicit photos. He could be an accomplice in Alex's murder. With this new lead, the detectives decided to track down Victor, hoping to unravel the web of secrets and lies that Maverick had spun. They were one step closer to uncovering the truth, but the case was about to take a darker and more sinister turn. The detectives' eyes locked onto the screen as they tracked Victor's number to a familiar address, Alex Taylor's office building. They couldn't believe the connection. Victor, the recipient of Sarah's intimate photos, was none other than Alex's own secretary. They quickly obtained a warrant to bring Victor in for questioning. As they arrived at Alex's office, they found Victor nervously fidgeting at his desk. He seemed shaken, but the detective's presence only added to his unease. They escorted him back to the interrogation room, where the truth began to unravel. Victor's expression turned calculating as he revealed his true intentions. He had orchestrated the setup between Maverick and Sarah, manipulating them to further his own scheme. Victor had planned to use Sarah's explicit photos to blackmail her, threatening to expose her secrets to Alex unless she paid a hefty sum. The detectives were appalled by Victor's cunning plan, which exploited Sarah's vulnerability for his own gain. Victor's confession continued, revealing the entirety of their plan. On the evening of May 3rd, he and Maverick had decided to move forward with the blackmail scheme. Victor had called Maverick during his photo shoot, giving him the green light to initiate the plan. However, things didn't go as smoothly as they had hoped. Sarah was reluctant to pay, and Victor's threats hadn't yielded the desired result. In a desperate attempt to intimidate her, they lied, claiming they had already sent the compromising photos to Alex. And the following day, he had been shocked to hear the death of Alex. With Victor's revelation, the detectives decided to retrace Sarah's steps on the day of Alex's murder. They accessed the CCTV footage from the event she was planning, tracking her movements as she left and headed home. The footage revealed a surprising detour. Sarah had stopped at a mall along the way, where she spent about an hour. Further investigation showed that Sarah had made a few purchases at the mall, including a large container of cleaning solution and some heavy-duty trash bags. The detectives' suspicions grew as they continued to follow her trail. After leaving the mall, Sarah had parked her car in a secluded spot not far from her home. The CCTV footage showed her sitting in the car for several minutes, her actions unclear. Then she got out and walked towards her house, disappearing from view. The detectives wondered what Sarah had done during those few minutes in the car. Had she been gathering her thoughts, or was she preparing for something more sinister? The discovery of the cleaning solution and trash bags hinted at a possible cleanup, but they still needed concrete evidence to link Sarah to Alex's murder. Around 11 p.m., Sarah was seen running frantically out of her house, looking distressed. She jumped into her car and sped away, heading back to the event center. The following day, Detectives Rodriguez and Chen eagerly awaited the autopsy results from the medical team leading the case. They had specifically requested a thorough analysis of the evidence collected from Alex's body. As they reviewed the report, one detail caught their attention. The lipstick found on Alex's cheek matched Sarah's signature shade. It was a unique blend, only available at a high-end boutique. This discovery strengthened the connection between Sarah and the crime scene. However, another crucial piece of evidence yielded a surprising result. Despite the visible signs of a struggle, Alex's nails didn't contain any DNA. Detectives Rodriguez and Chen brought Sarah in for further questioning, tracking her down to her home. As they waited for the search warrant to be processed, they asked her to accompany them to the station, and she eventually agreed. Meanwhile, officers executed the search warrant on Sarah's car, finding a few strands of fabric caught in the door handle, which they sent to the lab for analysis. At the station, Sarah was placed in an interrogation room, where the detectives presented the latest evidence. They showed her the results of the lipstick analysis and the CCTV footage of her return to the event center. Sarah's demeanor changed, her eyes darting back and forth as she struggled to maintain her composure. The detectives sensed a crack in her facade, and they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. The detectives decided to use a tactical approach, telling Sarah that they had found irrefutable evidence linking her to Alex's murder. They watched as her demeanor shifted from defiance to desperation. Sarah's eyes welled up with tears as she began to sob that she hadn't meant to kill him. The detectives exchanged a knowing glance, sensing a breakthrough. They continued to press her, asking for details about the events leading up to Alex's death. Sarah's confession poured out like a torrent. She revealed that Maverick had been threatening to expose her darkest secrets to Alex, and she had been desperate to keep him quiet. In a panic, she had driven home, intending to confront Alex and prevent him from seeing the compromising photos. But when she arrived, she found him already there, fresh from a late-night work event. He was just opening his phone, and she feared that it was the pictures Maverick had sent that he was opening. But things had taken a deadly turn. As she tried to wrestle the phone from Alex's grasp, he had become suspicious, and a struggle ensued. In the heat of the moment, Sarah had grabbed the belt hanging beside the bed and choked Alex, never intending for it to end in tragedy. The detectives listened in stunned silence, their minds reeling from the sheer complexity of Sarah's motives. They had expected a crime of passion, but this was something far more sinister, a calculated attempt to silence Alex, driven by desperation and fear. With the confession, the case against Sarah was deemed airtight. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The trial was swift, with the prosecution presenting overwhelming evidence of her guilt. On May 15, 2018, the court delivered its verdict. Sarah was found guilty and sentenced to death. The courtroom fell silent as the judge's words hung in the air, the weight of the sentence sinking in. The execution date was set for June 2, 2018. Sarah's fate was sealed. As she was led away in handcuffs, her eyes seemed to plead for mercy, but it was too late. The justice system had run its course, and she would soon face the ultimate penalty for her crime. As the news of Sarah's death sentence spread like wildfire, social media and the press erupted in a frenzy of outrage and condemnation. The public's reaction was swift and merciless, with many calling for her to rot in prison or face the ultimate penalty. As the execution date approached, the public's fervor slowly gave way to a somber reflection. The case of Sarah, the blackmailed and desperate wife, became a cautionary tale of the devastating consequences of secrets and lies. Alex's passing left a gaping hole in the community, one that went far beyond his business ventures. He had been a pillar of the town, always willing to lend a helping hand or support a worthy cause. His absence was deeply felt, as many of the initiatives he had championed were now left without a driving force. The local food bank, which Alex had generously supported, struggled to maintain its operations without his donations. The annual charity run, which he had founded, might be canceled due to lack of funding. The community center, where Alex had coached youth sports, might be in danger of being shut down due to lack of volunteers. His legacy lived on, but the town was forever changed by his loss. The tragedy of his death was compounded by the knowledge that his contributions, so vital to the community's well-being, would be deeply missed. On June the 2nd, 2018, Sarah's life was extinguished, a tragic end to a tragic tale. We hope you enjoyed this true crime story as much as we did making the video. Subscribe to the channel to see more crime stories, and click here to see another thrilling story about true crime. Enjoy. We hope you enjoyed this true crime story as much as we did enjoy making this video. Subscribe to the channel to see more crime stories, and click here to see another thrilling story about true crime. Enjoy.